Hey Maverick, welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm so happy that you decided to come back and hang out with me again.
Yes. Yes, I love this show and thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be on here. And we had a great session last time. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you guys go check out that episode. But no, thanks for having me back for sure.
I am really excited to get into all the things. So I did a current events episode on Helene and Milton and the wildfires up in Wyoming. And then I was actually on a podcast, Alien Addict, and we kind of talked about that. And so both those episodes have come out now, but I'm excited to hear like all the things that you have uncovered about the craziness that is happening. And even like if we want to go into the election a little bit, because right now we're recording, it's October 30th, so the election hasn't happened, but this episode will come out after the election has happened.
Okay. Yeah, let's go over all that stuff because there's a lot of strange stuff that has been transpiring. And yeah, with the election, I actually just found something out right before we got on here. We'll go over it, but it's
Okay.
something that's really weird with the election, like something that ABC just did.
Oh
So
my
we'll talk about
gosh.
that. Yeah, the Wyoming fires. I did a whole deep dive on that and how they have, the lithium mines that they just found, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So yeah,
It is
well, we
crazy
have,
how everything's connected. And then we can even connect it to the Maui fire. Like, I mean,
yeah,
everything. You can connect everything if you really try hard enough. And I'm excited to hear what you got to say. So,
yeah,
let's start with Helene. So, you want to hear my theory before I let you get going?
yes. I
Okay,
want, I
so
want, I want your thoughts
I
on
do
that.
think that Helene was a storm. I think that it was gonna be a storm. That like,
Okay.
right? Like it was going to happen. I don't know if it was gonna be as drastic, like if we just left it alone, it was gonna be as drastic as it was. But I think it was a storm. And then I think that we started interfering. We made it stronger and we directed it to where it needed to go. That's my theory.
That's a good theory. I like that because here's the thing. A lot of people, there's been a lot of speculation about if we can control the weather, if they can manipulate it. So I always go back in time, right? So if you go all the way back to the Vietnam War,
Hmm.
Operation Popeye, this is well documented. They even posted it in the New York Times in 1972, where they said Operation Popeye is real. They used it for the Vietnam War. They used rainfall. So when they went to go fight, in Vietnam on the beaches, they had like extreme weather control as far as like wind and rain and everything else. So they had an advantage. So this is well documented. So they have Operation Popeye and other things like that, Project Sirius, and other stuff like that. So I can kind of see that. I can kind of see to where there is a hurricane that because it was hurricane season.
Right?
There's a hurricane that came and they can direct it and move it because there are US patents.
Yep.
You go on Google, you can look and see that there are US patents on rain, hurricane control, hurricane creation. And they're saying that these patents that the US government owns is to prevent hurricanes. And I'm like, well, you can reverse engineer that and use it for the same thing. Because if you can direct it somewhere else to
Right.
get away from landfall, you can direct it towards landfall.
Well, and
And
how
if
come
you're
they haven't used it to direct it like direct hurricanes away from landfall yet?
exactly
If we have the
so
patents, we have the technology, but you haven't actually used it for good yet.
right, exactly. So I think that sorry. I think that there is some type of weather control, or I think, to be honest, my theory is that they can create hurricanes. Like at this point, who knows what they have?
That's what I think
So
happened with Milton.
yes. So what do you think about Milton? Because I got something really crazy that you may want to know about that kind of correlates with movies and everything else, how they show you. But what do you think Milton was? Same
So
scenario?
I think, no, I don't think that it was even a hurricane, like even a storm. So I think that Helene started out as a storm and they created, like they made it stronger and then they directed it where it needed to go. I think that Milton wasn't even a storm. Like it wouldn't have even happened. I think that they literally created the storm and made it stronger and then made it hit Tampa.
Got you. Okay. So well, for one, Helene, that was in Asheville, North Carolina.
Hmm.
And this all connects to Wyoming. This connects to Milton and everything else. So with Helene, they found massive lithium deposits in Asheville. So that's not weird. Okay. So put a pin in that. But here's the thing too. They had plans years ago, and you can look this up. I believe it was in 2016 or 2017, where they had the Asheville Smart City program
Mm-hmm.
to turn Asheville into a smart city. And then you have these lithium deposits and all this other stuff. Okay. So
Whoa,
then
and that North Carolina is a swing state.
North Carolina is a swing state. So that was another theory too. Where people were saying like, oh, it's hitting all the swing states or hitting the red states, and it's going to give people, trouble, actually voting.
Yeah, you can't get to the
So
polls.
can't get to the polls. A lot of people are displaced and they're moving and whatever else. But interesting. Okay, so we have lithium deposits, we have smart cities. So with Milton, I found something really interesting with Milton. So not only it was hitting, Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
and also none other than Bill Gates is investing $2 billion into downtown Tampa to turn into a smart city. So that's one thing. But you remember that whole thing with what was his name? Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, so explain the whole thing.
Okay. So Lieutenant Dan, that's what they called him, quote unquote, Lieutenant Dan, because obviously he was on a boat, he had a missing leg. It was the correlation with, the actual character from
Forrest
Forrest
Gump,
Gump.
yeah.
Correct. So remember how I said back in the Vietnam War, they used Operation Popeye.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember in Forrest Gump, what war did he fight in? Lieutenant Dan
It was
in the
Vietnam. Yep.
Vietnam War. So isn't it kind of weird that Lieutenant Dan, a real life Lieutenant Dan, is weathering the storm, and we have him named after a character that fought in the Vietnam War and used Operation Popeye for weather control. So I thought that was pretty weird. I'm like, the symbolism is pretty strong there. And
Right.
then and then mind you, of course, again with the smart cities and everything else that plays into that. So
Coincidence, right?
exactly. So but yeah, all that is like really weird because with the lithium and everything else, also in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Wyoming, a lot of people were covering it because of the hurricanes and it kind of overshadowed that.
Yeah.
Now, there was like hundreds of thousands of acres burned in Wyoming. So this is happening at the same time. And then actually it's been happening a little bit before too in like different parts around Wyoming. I believe in Canada too.
I mean, it's been
But
really, really dry, like abnormally dry.
right. And that's another thing too. So, and they're no stranger to fires, but like I kind of did research on that too, and it was really weird because the fires were jumping around and everything else. And coincidentally, they found $37 billion worth of lithium in Wyoming. So again, with this lithium thing, okay, natural disaster.
But that wasn't the only minerals they found in Wyoming. They found other minerals that you also need for like electric vehicles that I'm not even gonna attempt to say all their names because I literally can't. And I did it in my episode and it's embarrassing and everyone probably made fun of me. But uh like they found all these like five or six other like minerals that they need with lithium to make like solar panels and for wind turbines and for electric vehicles. So all the batteries and stuff, they take the lithium, but they also take these other like not as prominent minerals. And they found a huge deposit in Wyoming that they've been trying to get permits for the mines there.
Mm,
So yes,
that
lithium, but also all these other minerals that they need to partner with lithium.
got you. Which makes sense because if you're building smart cities in these 15-minute cities, I think you would need stuff like that to that'd be pretty prominent in a smart city.
So
I
let's
would
talk
think
about
so.
smart cities and 15-minute cities because I have gotten some comments that people are like, "What is a smart city? What is a 15-minute city?" So do you want to take that away?
Yeah. So a smart city or they're directly connected. You can say a smart city could be a 15-minute city, but in short, a 15-minute city is pretty much a part of the a 2030 agenda. right? And if you don't know about that, then do a whole deep dive on that. But it has to do with a one world government, has to do with one world currency, has to do with the density of cities. And a 15-minute city essentially is you can get to anything and everything within 15 minutes of walking, biking, not even a car. They want everything so condensed and everybody in these very condensed areas to where it's easier to control people.
Prisons, I
So
mean cities.
yeah. So if everybody's spread out in like rural areas and everything else, you don't have an account of where everybody is, and it's harder to control, right? But if you have everybody in this highly dense populated area, you got to think about disease, you got to think about control of food, water, information. So it's very easy to control people if they're in a highly densely populated city, and you can get to they want to make everything very convenient for you,
So you don't
right?
want to leave your city. Yeah.
You don't want to leave. And what I'm noticing is a lot of these companies are participating in this. So Costco, now they're building luxury apartments on top of Costco.
Hmm.
So,
Because
and
why
they
would
give
you
you,
ever need to leave Costco then?
right.
You live there, go
It,
downstairs, get whatever you need, go back upstairs. Now you never have to leave
exactly. And then they have free memberships for the people who live in those luxury apartments.
because the
So,
$65 a year is a steep cost. That's funny.
but they
But
would never leave, right?
yeah,
Like
they
you
would
got,
just live there. I mean, I shop at Costco all the time, so I would probably never buy one of those apartments, let's be honest. But
yeah,
I would
and
love it.
you would be stuck there. You would be just in the system.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this Matrix dystopian future type of scenario. So that's what it is.
It's like Idiocracy is actually coming to real life.
The more and more you look into like that movie and like other movies, they just like come to pass, and you're like, wait a minute, that is true. Like I look at movies all the time, especially with like a different lens now because I
Me
love
too.
movies.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV, but I do watch movies. I'm a big movie buff, and I always look at the movies and see kind of what they're trying to tell us, what they're trying to convey, and whatnot. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie, it's an old movie in the 90s. It's called Demolition Man.
I haven't
Have,
seen it.
okay, Demolition Man, check it out. It's
Okay.
with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. It came out in like 90, I forgot, like maybe early mid 90s or something like that.
Okay.
But it's about a cop who gets frozen because he committed like a horrible crime and he was like an extreme cop. He gets frozen. They have this new program where you don't go to prison, but they'll freeze you and you got to wait like 50, 60 years and then get released. So he gets frozen.
That's
He
a
gets
crazy type of punishment because like you wake up 50 years from now and everything's so different.
right. Everybody's either old or some of your family's gone. Like it's just like you have to start all over.
Wow.
So it's really crazy because he gets frozen, he gets let out, and then he has to adjust to this whole new world and everything else. And I found it really eerily similar to a 15-minute city because when he wakes up, everything is like this utopia and everything's great and there's no crime and you can't even like say curse words. Like if you say a curse word, you get fined.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to watch this
So
movie.
yeah, you got to watch it. And then like it's like haves and have nots, right?
Yeah.
So they have all the like, you know, nice, clean people above ground, and then like everybody else who's like poor and kind of just against the system, they live underground.
So twice today, somebody has brought up Big Trouble Little China. Have you seen that?
That's a good one too.
So it's really odd because typically, like, I'll get messages from people all the time, but today, twice, somebody has brought that movie, like, two different people have brought that movie up to me, and I'm like, I've never seen it. I don't even know what that's about. Um, what is that movie? Have you seen it?
Yeah, Big Trouble Little China, it's really cool because the video game Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they got a lot of their inspiration from that movie. So a lot of the
Okay.
characters like Raiden, they got from that movie, and then like a few other characters, but that even the big boss like Shang Tsung, like it's literally the same guy. Like the boss at the end of the movie, is the boss in like the video game and everything else. So kind of like
Okay.
parallels that. So that's just like a fun, like cool
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, I thought it was odd because twice like two people messaged me about that movie specifically today and I was like, "What the heck is happening? Like, do I need to go watch this movie?" Because yeah, like I find a lot of symbolism in movies as well, and I bring it up in my podcast all the time. I'm like, "Have you guys
Yeah,
seen this movie because it's literally this is happening." People probably think I'm
yeah.
nuts.
What movies? What other movies do you see like symbolism in?
I mean, it it depends on like I feel like the situation because like typically when I'm talking, then I'll be like, "Oh, this reminds me of
Right.
whatever," right? So I don't know if I can think of one right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But
I always
obviously we
watch.
talked about Leave
Uh,
the World Behind.
yeah, Leave the World Behind is a big one, and that movie is like still like
So
happening like
crazy.
right now.
Yeah,
It's crazy, and it doesn't help the fact that Obama produced it, which
right.
is
And then he's basically a puppet master for never mind. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. But what's funny is though, like, and another thing too is like as far as the movies, a lot of people don't know that the DoD, the Department of Defense, actually has a film department, and they're in the Pentagon. They're a part of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
So the Pentagon literally has a film department that they work closely with Hollywood. And you can look this up. They have a budget, and everything. They help with scripts, and it's crazy. So that's why I was like, okay, when I found that out, I was like, okay, it all makes sense now.
Oh yeah,
Totally
for
makes sense.
sure. So that's so one of the reasons I think that they started the fire in Maui and Lahaina is because of the 15-minute cities. So that's how I connected all the things because Asheville wants to be a 15-minute city and Tampa, I've heard Orlando. Um, I don't
Yes,
think Wyoming has anything to do with that because like if you've ever been to Wyoming, a city won't do well in Wyoming.
right.
But I mean, Lahaina, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think yes,
Okay.
Lahaina. So yeah, same thing. Like what's funny with that is eerily similar to, Asheville and everything else. But if you remember, well, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they had a digital government summit right before the fires in Lahaina in Maui. Right before,
Interesting.
yeah, and it was about AI, state government ran government. They want AI. They want to do all this crazy stuff. But yeah, look up Digital Government Summit in Maui. They had it right before the fires.
So do you think that we're gonna see like the FEMA lack of help in Asheville? I mean, we've already started seeing that, but in North Carolina, the way that we're seeing it in Maui, where they're still not even allowed to go back to their homes like months later.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point it's just land grabs, and people aren't getting their homes back. They aren't getting their land back. And the thing about Lahaina is like a lot of that a lot of that land was just passed down generation into generation,
Right.
and they weren't giving up that land. So now, being they have a natural disaster, the government legally can come in and swoop in and take it.
Why?
So
Like what legality allows them to come take that? Because like if your house burns down, like, okay, so my parents' house actually did burn down, like literally completely gone. And they got to go back and it was still their land and they could still rebuild their house if they wanted to. They didn't want to, they sold it, but like they could have. So what makes
right,
it different from like a natural disaster?
yeah. So they're saying that there's laws in place to where the government can actually come in if there's a natural disaster. So, and then they come in with like investors like BlackRock who comes in and swoops up the land for pennies on the dollar.
BlackRock's
So,
killing me, man.
yeah, and you got to look in. I mean, if
I'm
people
gonna
don't know about,
do a whole episode on BlackRock and Vanguard and the fact that they own each other. Like
yeah, which
like
is
so
crazy.
gross.
And then they own other banks, and banks own them, and it's like this whole like
Yeah.
crazy mixed pot of ownership of each other, but they're all working together. But yeah,
Hmm.
so essentially, yeah, like they work with the government, obviously, and they do these. I've even heard that people on the ground in Asheville saying that $750 is not even like a grant.
It's
That's
a
actually a
loan.
loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like from the horse's mouth. Like these are people on the ground saying like, hey, if you don't read the fine print, and you don't pay that money back, then you lose everything.
which is crazy to me. Like I got so heated in my current events episode because I was so mad that they are giving illegal immigrants money. They're giving money, grants. They're like, here's $9,000 or however much, right? And they get a paycheck every single month. Well, these people just lost everything. Sometimes, like some of them lost family members, so, like they lost their homes, they lost everything, and they get a $750 loan.
Right. It's crazy. And I think this is like all done on purpose, obviously. Like they have the borders wide open. This is, obviously been a problem for a little while now. And it's just like, why? Like it's just they're playing chess. It's all pieces on a board,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So when you have all these immigrants come in, just think about it. They have people who are going to work for lower wages. Now you have people that don't need any documentation to vote. Like this is happening right now. This is not even like quote unquote a conspiracy. Like this is all
Yeah.
documented. People are like, how are they voting? How are they doing all these different things? How are they getting, I just saw a Venezuelan family, not to say they're bad people, but it's just like America should be America first, but we have families coming in and getting zero interest loans and buying homes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this is crazy. So it's like I feel like all this is being induced on purpose to feed some type of agenda. And I really think it goes into Agenda 2030, to be honest. I think it's all a part of this whole major plan and everything else. So, um,
Well,
yeah, I think,
my husband has this theory. I mean, I don't know if it's really a theory, but that all these people are coming in from wherever, probably like China, like because military age men are just coming, like pouring over our border, right? From wherever,
yeah,
and they're all congregating in different cities, and that there will be a coordinated attack on like 20 or 30 different cities all in the same time. So that
yeah,
way, like everyone, like the whole country is under attack at the same time. Like you can't help each other. Everybody's all like great, but I don't know.
yeah. I think so too, because if you think about it, um, already China owns like almost 400,000 acres of US land.
Yep.
So that is scary in itself. Then you have all these men coming in, military age, which can be easily sleeper cells to where they can just activate them at any time.
Yep.
And then you have like all these other unaccounted for people. It's like, who is planning our demise? Is it like the government, or is it like other countries, or is it like, are they in
Everybody working
cahoots?
together. Yeah.
You never know.
It's
Yeah.
the New World Order. Like
The Illuminati.
they're all working together to like ruin what we have going on over here. Well, did you
Yeah.
hear about Virginia? So Virginia was like, "Hey, we're not going to let people that are not citizens vote in this country or in this state. We're done. We're going to put in a law." And then the federal Supreme Court came down. They're like, "You cannot do that. They are allowed to
Right.
vote." It was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah. I did see that. I did see that, which I mean, should be common sense, right? Like, it's like obvious, like, yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that. It's like some big victory. It's like, no, that should be standard. Like, obviously.
Well, why can't we just like have a bunch of people from like a bunch of people from South Africa or Germany or I don't know, Russia? We just have all these people vote in our election now.
Yeah. That's
Absentee ballots,
essentially
right? The whole world can vote in our election. Why not?
right.
Like
Yeah,
it's
that's basically what's
ridiculous.
happening. Yeah, it's basically what's happening. It's like, and I always like paint a picture for people. I'm like, hey, where else in the world can you go get like free benefits and, commit crimes or go vote in their elections? It's like, can you show me any other country that can happen like at all? Because this is the only place I can think of.
Yeah.
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy. And then like you were saying, they get to get like zero money down, like they can just go buy a house. And we have many middle class Americans that think that they will never be able to buy a house because it's too expensive. Like you have to come
Yeah.
with what, 10%, 20% down? Like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
It's a lot of
Who buys a
money.
house like that?
Yeah. And I think they want to destroy the middle class because that's the class to where you really can't control um because that class has a leg up to get ahead. If
Hmm.
you're like below the poverty line, forget about it. And the middle class can really advance. And if you get rid of that class, it's way easier to control the population. You have the rich and poor, keep the rich people happy in their little dystopian, I mean, they're in the utopian, demolition man style,
Right.
little cities, and you keep them happy and they're good. And then you have the rest of the people who are too poor, too powerless to do anything else. The end. This
They
actually
can't think
goes in,
past today because they're so poor that they can't like function.
yeah,
Yeah,
you got to
absolutely.
worry about your next meal, you
Hmm.
know? Which is going back to media and movies. Well, this isn't a movie, but it's a cartoon. So, did you know that the Flintstones and the Jetsons are actually connected?
I have heard this. So they're like it's like happening at the same time, right?
Right.
So like the
And
Flintstones are living at the same time as the Jetsons.
yeah, so the Flintstones are at the bottom, and then the Jetsons live in the sky.
Oh my
So that's
goodness.
why you don't really see them. But they actually do a crossover episode, or I think a few episodes where they cross over or something like that. But it's this whole thing where it's this symbolism showing like, hey, you're in like this prehistoric land and you're on the bottom and everything else, but actually all the rich people are living in the sky and they don't have to even see or touch them or anything.
That makes a lot of sense because at the beginning, like the Jetsons, like their intro, right? Like the mom or the daughter or somebody holds out their hand for money, and the dad gets his wallet out and like is counting his money, and he pulls some out for her, and then she takes the wallet, right? And was like, "You,
Mm-hmm.
that's money for you." But like, it's not like he wasn't. Oh, we can't afford that. Whereas in the Flintstones, they're like pedaling their car with their feet.
Exactly. So they have all this advanced technology and everything else, and then everybody's down below is so poor. It's just like, yeah, they have to, they have no shoes and everything else. So it's kind of crazy to think about that because it's made by Hanna-Barbera, which is, the creator of both shows. So
That's crazy. I
yeah,
think that they're telling us, I'm a huge believer that they're always telling us what's happening or what they want to happen. You just aren't paying attention.
yeah. Well, consciously or not,
Right.
subconsciously you are, and your subconscious mind is way more powerful. Like even if you don't think you're listening to something or something's in the background, your mind is always picking stuff up. So I even think like when you're scrolling on like Instagram or wherever else, TikTok, be very mindful of what you're taking in, even if you're just scrolling past, right? Scrolling past stuff, like, oh, I'm not interested in that. Your subconscious, if your feed is not really conducive to like you learning or, something positive, then your subconscious is taking all that in. So if your feed is like trash, then it's like your subconscious is taking that in. And it's really interesting that they call it a feed because they're feeding you, it's all in the
Yeah,
words as well. It's like they're feeding you
absolutely.
something. If they're feeding you trash, then your subconscious is taking in that trash. And, so
That's crazy.
yeah. And I think that too, like again, going back to symbolism and everything else, like even like the words that you speak, it's like literally spells. Like when you spell out a word, what is it called? It's called spelling. So it's a spell being cast on you, right? So like when you say, I don't even say good morning. I say grand rising because morning, I don't want to mourn anything, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
So like the word you speak is very powerful because like whatever you speak becomes, reality and true. This is why media is so powerful. Just think about this. A broadcast, like they're casting a spell on you. And then like a
Yeah.
program, TV program, they want to program you. So like all these things like a channel, a TV channel, they're channeling something through you.
Yeah.
So whether you believe it or not, or the cult or anything else, you don't have to believe it because it's real, and this is how they control you through media, movies, music, everything. That's why they put it out and they prop up these celebrities and
Hmm.
how they're controlled and everything else because it's one big machine that they're trying to feed stuff to you.
Which is why like certain people get to be famous while other certain people don't get to be famous.
Correct. I know so many talented people, actors, musicians, and it just never really happened for them. I'm like, how come like you're way better than this guy who's on this TV or whatever? It's like why didn't it ever happen for you? But it's just like they weren't chosen.
Politics. Yeah. It's like the
Yeah,
bureaucratic dumbness of it. Okay, last time you were here, we talked about Diddy a little bit. It was like just starting all the Diddy stuff. So do you want to
Right.
hit on that a little bit since I got you?
Yeah. So since the Diddy stuff, and I had like so many Diddy videos go viral because I've been on other podcasts and I've been like breaking down like his whole network and everything else.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like the whole Diddy rabbit hole is insane because he had a whole network. He had drug mules and finance people handling his finance and all this crazy stuff. But also, you have his house, right? So they raided his house. They have a lot of these tapes, and a few interesting things has happened since he's been indicted and has gone to jail. So for one, his house itself in LA, and I'm from LA. I know that area very well.
Hmm.
In Beverly Hills, it's called Homely Hills, which is a more affluent part of Beverly Hills, which is like the top of the top, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So where he lived 1 minute away from the Playboy Mansion.
Hmm.
Literally, you can map it
Yeah.
1 minute away. And people were saying, oh, he had tunnels and everything else. That has yet to be actually confirmed. But what is confirmed is that the Playboy Mansion has tunnels. Um, I have the schematics. It's been documented. They were built uh, decades ago.
Who owns the
And
Playboy Mansion now?
you know what? I don't know who owns it, but
I'll
there
look
were
it up.
some. Yeah, look it up. I forgot who bought it. I believe they sealed up, or so they say, they sealed up the tunnels.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know who actually owns that property because I have a feeling they didn't seal up the tunnels.
Yeah, they can say that, right? We don't
Right.
know.
I mean, they say all kinds of things.
Right. So Diddy, yeah, he lived a minute away from the Playboy Mansion. Now what I found out in my research is that not only he had tunnels, but it was multiple tunnels to different celebrities' houses.
Hmm.
So like I believe it was Warren Beatty and a few other people, like it was just throughout the whole neighborhood, which is really weird. And then did a whole deep dive on, Hugh Hefner. And I'm like, well, what was he into and everything else? So he was into, I would say, allegedly, you know, just for entertainment purposes only. But this has been documented by other people that actually worked with him. They said he had this thing called Pig Night, and it was every Thursday night. And this is all in a documentary on A&E. It's called Secrets of Playboy. And his employees said that he had something called Pig Night, to where he had all the pimps from uh, Sunset Boulevard come up to his house, and he called the women pigs. And he was like, "Hey, how many pigs do you have?" And he, like, even his workers said, "Hey, don't ever mention, don't say, pigs in front of them." But that's what he called them behind closed doors.
Oh,
And they were like party favors and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like trafficking to me, but
yep.
okay. So yeah, so it's just like this whole thing to where like why do you have tunnels and all this other stuff? And it's just this whole long history of that stuff. And I believe that if you really think about it, he built his whole empire on, women, naked women and everything else. So it's not
Yep.
a far-fetched theory that he would be, a trafficker as well.
What do you think about the I think it's like a prison phone call that's come out where he's like telling somebody, I can't remember who he's talking to. He's telling somebody like they need to get rid of the pizza and like take out the old pizza boxes.
Oh, this is Diddy on the phone?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I did see that. I don't know if that's actually real or
Oh
not.
yeah. AI
I'm
is
not,
killing me these days.
yeah, you never know what's real and what's not. So like it's pretty, yeah, you kind of have to have some discernment of like what's real and what's not. But um I did see something with Obama too, where he's talking about hot dogs and pizza too. So I mean that whole Pizzagate thing is definitely real,
Yeah,
in
I'm
my
gonna cover
opinion.
that soon.
Yeah,
I'm
but I think,
gonna take
but I
on the
think
task.
you should, because that's a crazy network. But going back to Diddy though, I also found something pretty interesting too. So he gets indicted, goes to jail, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So now, if you look at the landscape, isn't it kind of odd that all these people are starting to go down all of a sudden? You have the New York mayor being indicted, and he just gave the key to the city to Diddy, like, I think last year.
Yep.
So you have the New York mayor going down, he's indicted. Then you have Mike Jeffries, this former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch. He goes down for trafficking.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? And he had massive parties like Diddy as well. And he had his whole crazy, nasty network. And he goes down. Um, Even the rapper, to a smaller extent, even the rapper Little Durk, he just got indicted, or I think he got arrested. I don't know if he got indicted with the same charges,
Mm-hmm.
but he had a murder for hire scenario with his whole thing. So I'm just finding, like, I'm connecting the dots and like it's kind of weird that all these people are starting to go down.
It's like they're cleaning house. Like whoever's like because you know that Diddy's not like the mastermind behind this, right?
Right.
So like whoever is the guy that's higher than that on this ladder, it's like they're cleaning house and they're getting rid of people. They're like, you know what? Throw out Diddy, throw out this
Right.
mayor, throw out the CEO, throw out these people. We don't need them anymore. Let's just go ahead and clean up. Like all the people that might start talking, let's get rid of them.
Hmm.
It's time to
Yeah.
clean house.
Yeah. They're disposable. And I think that, like you said, the people who are above them, giving them marching orders,
Mm-hmm.
they're just disposable pieces on the board now. They're like, okay, we don't need this guy. He's, we have all this dirt on him, throw him out. And
Yep.
then maybe Diddy, he's, probably singing like a bird right now in jail,
Oh
trying to
yeah.
lessen his sentence, and he's throwing out names and everything else. So,
Do you think he'll be
um,
Epsteined?
it looks like he's gonna fight the case. I don't think he's gonna be Epstein. He knows a lot as well. Um, I think he's a bit more of an egomaniac, so I don't think that um, he'll go down without a fight.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's tricky to say. If that does happen, that would be insane.
Can you imagine? And we'd be like everyone believes that Epstein killed himself, right? But he didn't. And so now let's see what happens with Diddy. How long will it take
Right.
for him to kill himself too?
Do you think Epstein's dead?
Um, I don't know. I haven't fully decided because I think I don't know enough. Like I haven't done the research into it. Like I know, surface level, but I haven't actually done an episode on it, which means that I haven't done all the research into it yet.
Got you. I don't think so.
You don't
I
think he's
don't think
dead?
so. I don't think so. It was too
So
coincidental that everything happened that night.
I'm thinking a couple things. Like either he did just kill himself, or like they gave him an option. They're like, "Hey, you can either get rid of yourself, or we can do it for you." Then they like gave him like the time to just like be done, or they somebody killed him. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard the theory that he's still alive because like where would he be right now? Like
I think he's on
who's
his island.
saved
He's
him?
probably on his island because you know that the
Didn't they
guy,
like isn't the island all shut down? Like you can't get there?
yeah, so the guy who bought it, I believe, um, I don't know if he's actually connected to Epstein, but he's some billionaire that's rebuilding it and he's trying to do like a resort or something. I don't know. He's doing something, but he
Don't
bought it
like
though.
that. Don't love that.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Nope. Don't take your kids there. It's not a resort.
Yeah, so I think that he's doing something there, or I don't know exactly, but yeah, I think he's probably chilling on the island. I don't think he's dead, and I think that he had even more dirt on people, even more than Diddy,
Oh
obviously,
yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
he was heavy. So yeah, I think he faked his death because the cameras went out, and then you
Yeah.
had the security guard. I believe he fell asleep. All these weird things that happened, like
Which is why
as
we're
he
like,
died.
yeah, there's no way he's dead or he killed
There's
himself.
There's no way. So I think he's probably on his island chilling. The guy bought it, probably one of his friends. Hey, buy this island so I can like chill out there. And yeah,
There's
so I
probably
think he's
like
on
a
the
clause, like a if I get caught clause.
yeah, I think so. You
But
got to
Ghislaine
remember,
Maxwell, like she went to jail. She did not kill herself. She's in jail right now, but she's in like I don't know what the white collar jail, right? Where she's
yeah,
just like living her best life in jail.
right, yeah, and she knows a lot too. And I think that they just threw her in a box and just threw away the key, and that way she's more controlled, and she's not really spilling any beans to get out. But
Right.
um, it's kind of odd though because like just going back to the island, I just remembered this. So and then Ghislaine,
Yeah.
um, she did uh, I believe it was a charity event back in like 1985 or 86. There's a picture of her with Disney. And what I found really interesting about that is that she's around a bunch of kids and everything else, right? Now, they had a Disney cruise. They
Yeah.
used to go to Epstein's Island. That was one of the stops.
Oh, I hate this.
And I was like, wait a minute.
Nope.
So,
Mm-mm.
yeah, so she was like, and she had her submarine license and everything else. So, whoever's wasn't on the flight logs, they were probably in a submarine. She actually has her submarine license. So, all this weird stuff, it's like, wait a minute. So, they're making stops to Epstein Island, and that was oh man, it's a crazy rabbit hole.
You're telling me that just anybody can get a submarine license? Can I go get a submarine license?
I don't have no idea how that works, but yeah,
I would love to
it's
get
a
one of those.
wild rabbit hole.
That's funny. Wow, I feel like we've covered so much, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, there's a lot happening in the world right now.
It is. It's a whole change of like the regimes. It's a whole
Yeah.
purging of like what was going on, all the madness and the trafficking and crazy shit that's going on. And then now it's just like it's a cleansing, like you said. It's a cleansing and it's
Yep.
cleaning house. And I think that's what's happening right now.
Do you want to get into the election a little bit before we say
Oh
goodbye?
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Let's do
definitely.
it.
Yeah. Do you want to know what I just saw?
Yes, please tell me.
Okay.
Of
So right
course.
before we right before we got on, it's crazy. And this is another thing. I think that this whole election is just like, I don't know. Like, well, I have a theory for one.
Yes.
So my theory with the election is, and we still have what, less than a week, but
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think we're gonna have an election.
So I've been following this theory of yours because I'm like, okay, I could see it for sure. But like we only have 6 days left till the election.
Anything can happen within
Anything
six
can happen.
days.
Yeah, man. And it could happen so quick. It could literally happen like the night of. Like,
Right.
okay. Okay.
So
I'll follow. I'll track.
that's one thing. So I think that we're not gonna have an election, and I think that they may, and when I say no election, I mean like they may postpone it, or there was some kind of interference, so we got to do it over. I don't know, something like that. But I digress. With what I just saw, ABC, there's a live stream, and I'll post it on my TikTok. I just did a video. I'm gonna post it. So you guys can check it out. There is uh, I guess a live stream or whatever it was. It's like a race car thing, like a race show going on. But at the bottom, it says the election results.
What were
It
they?
showed it was Harris winning 52% and Donald Trump having 47%.
Hmm.
And here's the thing that I found really weird. Okay, so Donald Trump loses at 47%, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what president would this be?
Oh yeah. And he's got the 47th agenda and it would be his 47th presidency. I covered all of this when I did his assassination attempt.
Correct. So it's almost like a mocking thing. It's like do they know that Trump's going to win and they're just going to spin it on us and give it to Harris and then he loses that 47%, like kind of ha ha ha. I don't know.
I don't
Kind of
like it.
weird.
That is weird that and that it's weird that it would be at the bottom of the screen already.
Yeah. And I don't know
Like,
what's going on. I'm going to post it. I'll send it to you as
yeah,
soon as I
send it.
post
I'm
it.
gonna post it too.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
both
really
post it.
weird.
Like that's
It's
nuts. I think I'm gonna
yeah,
drop this episode. If you guys are listening to it now, it's because I probably dropped it early. I think I'll just pop it in their feed like tomorrow or Friday.
yeah. That would
That
be
way,
good.
because then
Yeah,
it's out before the election, and then everybody can like hear. Because this
right.
is too good, man. I can't. I don't want to
Yeah,
wait. It'll be like a bonus episode.
right. And then we have all this like weird stuff going on with the ballots and did you hear like what's going on with like how the votes are flipping?
No.
Yeah, so like okay, you know how they have digital panels, right? They have
Yeah.
digital ones. So what's happening is like you'll press Democrat and it'll go to Republican, or you'll press Republican, it'll go to Democrat.
What the heck?
I'm like, okay, so if that's not eerie enough and like smells like voter fraud, then now they have burning ballots happening in
Oh,
multiple
I saw
states.
that. Yep, people are burning that ballots. Which, how is that not illegal?
It's highly illegal.
Why are we not stopping it?
Yeah, so like there's burning ballots happening. I saw one TikTok video where this guy is driving. He sees a box of ballots. It's tied up and sealed, but it's on the side of the road. And he takes it to the police and he's like, dude, what is going on?
Yeah. Did you watch
So,
that movie? It was a documentary about the 2020 election. Can't remember what it's called right now. Um, it was about how they had all these extra ballots were being dropped off for like people like mules basically, and they were like dropping off. I think it was called like 2200 or something like
oh,
that.
maybe. I think I know what you're talking about.
And so they were dropping off all these ballots for like people that were dead or that like couldn't like were unable to vote. And actually it was funny because I just saw a meme the other day and it was he said my uncle has been a lifelong Republican, but this year he's voting Democrat and if he knew that he'd turn over in his grave. And I was like because they're making fun of the 2020
Wow.
election and how all these dead people voted.
Right. And then there's another video. Speaking of that, I just saw another video today, or I think it was yesterday, where this woman, she said her first election that she's ever participated in was the 2020 election, right?
Yeah.
So she's going through at the ballot place her history of voting. She's been voting since 2016 and for
What?
the other party. She was like, I don't know what's going on. I never voted in the primaries. I never voted in any other presidential elections. She was like, I'm pissed off. And they just did like a whole audit of all her voting history. And she was like, who's voting for me right now?
But you know, you can check to see if you voted. Did you know that? I didn't know this. This is like a new thing. I didn't know that you could check to see if you could vote. So, or
Right.
if your vote was counted. You can check to see if your vote was counted. So my friend told me that in the 2020 election, she voted and then her vote wasn't counted. Because she
Oh
checked it to
man.
make sure that her vote was counted and it wasn't. They didn't count her vote at all.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
she's
this
like, "Well,
will
what the heck?"
oh my God.
So, there's so much voter fraud going on and people are like, "Oh, you're just mad because like whatever. No, like this has been happening on both sides of the table for
Yeah,
years and years and years. I mean, I covered
right.
it when I covered Lyndon B. Johnson that he stole elections for Congress and then how he stole the presidency. Anyway,
Right.
we're not going to talk about that. But like I mean, people have been stealing elections forever now, it feels like.
Right.
And so like yeah, you really have to check to make sure that your vote was counted. So I'm gonna check that
Wow.
because I don't know how like how do you report that if your vote wasn't counted?
Yeah, I don't know, but I
There's got to be a
mean,
way.
yeah, there's got to be a way to do that. And I think that again, like with this current election that's happening, like we're probably going to see the worst case of voter fraud ever. I don't know what from what side. I think that personally, I think that Trump is taking it because I did a whole interview in the streets. I'm looking at the comments. I'm like really reaching out to the people to get where their head is at, right?
Well, and you
And
can, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you can see that by like, so Kamala, she went on Call Her Daddy, like that podcast, and it got like
right,
770,000 views in 3 weeks. Well,
right,
Donald Trump went on Rogan and he got like 33 million views in like 2 days. So like you
right,
can see where the people are like, they're voting already without like
right,
actually voting.
right. They're showing where the support is and kind of where their energy is going. So I don't know. I mean, and just to see that what ABC did, if they flip it to the where it's like it's it's not even it doesn't even make sense. Like if she wins 52 to 47, like I don't even see that happening. Like I would think if anything, it will
Yeah,
be
that's
like even closer than that.
right.
But
I
yeah,
could
I don't
see it
know.
being really, really close and like going either way. Like I don't have a prediction. I know that I voted, but I also like I vote every single election I'm allowed to vote, I vote. Um, but I could see it being really, really close and then going
Mm,
either way.
right. I mean,
I don't
which it
know
could
which
be. I
way.
mean, I don't know, which it could be, but I'm just
I hate
getting
that
the
ABC did that though, because that makes me mad.
yeah. I'll send you the video. It's crazy, and it's just like, and I was even thinking like, okay, I was trying to even add it up and try to see, but then it said like the votes only had, I think like one was like the numbers were off or something. So I don't know what they were like trying to test or trying to like convey to people. Like it was nowhere near the actual voter number. It was like 3, 4 million to like 2 or 3 million or so. It wasn't accurate, but it was just weird that they had to like, oh, Harris at 52, Donald at 47. Is that 100%?
Maybe
I
it's
mean,
what's happening now. I'm trying to make it make sense. Maybe
yeah,
that's
I
like
don't
where their
know.
percentages are. I don't know either. But they don't count all the votes until the election day, right? Like I've already voted, but like they won't count that vote until the day
They
of the
won't,
election.
yeah, they won't show it. Like, I don't know what that would be, right? Like, what would that be? Like,
I
what
don't
would they be
know.
showing? Like, oh, the numbers in a
Approval
certain.
ratings? I don't
Um,
I don't know. I'm trying to like grasp at straws, honestly.
yeah, I don't know. And I'll try to debunk it, but I just don't know why would they even show that like and had like a little check mark by her name and whatnot.
Yeah, that's
So
weird.
I don't know. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh. I
It's
hate that.
weird.
But
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting election to say the least. So
it's gonna, yeah, I feel like everything's been very interesting this last couple months. Like, I feel like I've put out so many current events episodes because there's so many things happening right now.
right.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah,
But
it's gonna be interesting.
anyway, I'm gonna drop this episode early. I'm gonna drop it tomorrow probably just to, because why not? I think that everybody wants to hear
Yeah,
it. So,
they
that'll be
do.
really good. But thank
Yeah,
you
they
again,
do.
Maverick, for coming out and coming on my podcast. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course.
And I'm
Thank
sure we'll
you.
talk again very soon.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
until next week, my friends, stay skeptical and we will see you all then. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.